Call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Rankin,
Here.
Vice Mayor Smith,
Here.
Councilmember Celaya, Councilmember Hawkins,
Here.
Councilmember Montaño,
Here.
Councilmember Walter,
Here.
Councilmember Woolridge.
Here.
Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you. We'll stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Valerie, would you?
Father, we thank you for this time. We thank you that you have protected us up until this point. We ask that you give us wisdom and knowledge and all understanding. Help us to always do our jobs with professionalism and integrity. Thank you for all things. In your Son, Jesus' name.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. This is the first call to the public for public comment on issues within the jurisdiction of the Town Council. Council rules limit public comment to 3 minutes. Individual council members may respond to criticism made by those commenting, may ask staff to review a matter raised, or may ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. However, members of the council shall not discuss or take action on any manner during an open call to the public unless the matters are properly noticed for discussion and legal action. Jerry Rayburn.
Thank you. My name is Jerry Rayvert, and I live at 220 East Ruggles. I've been to council meetings before and introduced myself, and I think you've seen I've written a couple of articles in the editorial section of the newspaper. I've come to you tonight to ask that you please reconsider the location of the library. If you're not going to use the county lot, which I guess they're going to tear the building down, I'm really not sure on that, would you consider rebuilding the library at the Silver King Hotel? What I mean is the sections that have been demolished after the fire. There's plenty of room for a library, computer facilities, small outdoor seating area. And if you would also consider, instead of building a park and an amphitheater on the west side of the lot that contains the hotel, you could put in a parking lot. And that parking lot would certainly support the library and visitors coming to the historic district. And both of these places are within the historic district. If you've never seen Harris Sobin's report on the Florence AT, it was done in the 1970s, he's already got the streetscape for your library building. All you'd have to do is design the interior however you wanted it. And I think a change like that would certainly complement the town, the district, and it would certainly improve visitation to the downtown area. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. John Anderson.
Yes, I'm John Anderson. I live at 2631 North Presidential Drive here in Florence. I wanted just to come to thank the council for giving me the opportunity for the last 3 years to serve on the Planning and Zoning Committee. And I want to thank Councilwoman Walters for asking about my resignation at the last meeting, but I wanted to clarify some of the answers that were given. She asked about a meeting that she heard was going to be planned. The city manager responded that we were going to have a meeting, but Mr. Anderson decided to instead resign. I never heard of any meeting. Also, Councilwoman Walter's second question was, should we table and get a discussion going? Again, the city manager's response was, we asked them both, the members of the commission directly, and they decided not to come to the council, and he chose to submit his resignation. Again, no one, absolutely no one, spoke to me about my resignation. Now, this is another reason as to why I resigned, because this is the kind of respect that the town staff has shown the citizens of the town. Now, I don't expect anything to be done about it, but I just wanted to clarify it because I didn't want you people to think I was just a quitter. I'm not. And I'm leaving now, not out of frustration or out of disrespect, but I'm from Kentucky, and I got to go watch a ball game. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Any other member of the audience have anything they'd like to say? Come forward and state your name, please.
My name is Terry MacDad, and I live in Wild Horse Estates. And I'm here to talk to you about something that was supposed to be on the agenda on 4/21. I understand that's all changed now, but Wild Horse Estates zoning, equestrian zoning ordinance 606-13. And I request that the Town Council adopt the P&Z Commission's recommended option A of the RRES 606-13 ordinance at the upcoming 4/21 Town Council meeting. Option A is the only option that complies with the state statute ARS 9-471, paragraph L, as stated at the 3/20 P&Z Commission meeting by the town's legal counsel. The state statute requires the annexing body to implement zoning as close as possible to the existing county zoning. I also request that as part of the 4/21 agenda that the mayor announce that the meeting will be for public hearing and action. The issue of the zoning for Wild Horse Estates, if annexed, has been going on since zoning letters were mailed out to property owners on October 30th of 2013. It's time to end the conflict that we've been caused by this issue and allow the residents of Wild Horse Estates to get on with their lives. Please do not wait until 5/5 to make the final decision. If a new letter must be sent to the Wild Horse Estates residents announcing that a decision will be made on 4/21, please do it immediately. Mrs. Nevis has stated that she turned around the 12/5 Planning and Zoning Commission Wild Horse Estates zoning recommendation, and she intends to do the same again. Please do not let this happen again, since the town must be compliant with the state statute. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Any other members of the audience? Please come forward.
Good evening. My name is Nancy Sincata. I wrote something out because I get very nervous when I talk. But I have copies for you guys because I think what I have to say is very important. So I'm going to start from the beginning. Dear Florence Town Council, my name is Nancy Sincata, and I live at 23625 North Bridle Way, Florence, Arizona. My husband and I have lived in Pinal County for 18 years, and we currently own 23 properties in Pinal County. We own properties in general rural, where many different types and quantities of animals are allowed. I am a resident of Wild Horse Estates, which is not zoned general rural and does not allow more than 2 horses per property, nor does it allow any other farm animals or fowl. I appreciate this opportunity to talk to you, the Town Council, about the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation of Option A for Wild Horse Estates. Option A closely mirrors the current Pinal County zoning, the animal ordinance, and the CC&Rs of Wild Horse Estates. To adopt anything but Option A would be a violation of Arizona Revised Statute 9-471, paragraph L. But that's the legal side of it. Let's look at what's been happening in Wild Horse Estates. There is a small but loud group that want more animals, different kinds in larger quantities. Attached is the Wild Horse Estates plat, which you'll see when you get it. Those properties that are highlighted in yellow are out of compliance with the number and types of animals allowed in Wild Horse Estates under the Pinal County zoning. There are 11 highlighted properties out of 84. 11 is a small number compared to the 73 that are following the rules. The rule breakers are the problem, and they are creating more problems. Sure, there are some that will claim that they didn't know that there was a maximum of 2 horses and no other animals or fowl allowed in Wild Horse Estates. But whether or not they knew these rules when they purchased their homes is not the point. Ignorance of the law is no excuse, and it is no coincidence that the most outspoken group members are in violation and out of compliance. The self-appointed leader of this group, Kelly Nevis, is in violation, is non-compliant, and has no intention of following the rules. She has brazenly bragged that she has had plenty of experience fighting the same battle in 2 other states, Colorado and California. She and her group of followers would like you to believe that it is their right to have more animals, but it is not their right if they want to live in Wild Horse Estates. Our zoning, ordinances, and CCNRs do not allow it. They are not entitled to have more animals than the law allows, and they surely are not entitled to have more property rights than the rest of us. Do I still have time?
One more minute.
Oh, good. They are welcome to move to General Rural, where they can have all the animals, flies, odors, and noises. I'm requesting that on April 21st, the Town Council meeting be for public hearing and action, and I thank you in advance for adopting option A and the opportunity to speak here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Any other member of the council or the audience? Hearing none, I'll close the call to the public. Charles?
Item 6, public hearing and presentation. 6A, public hearing on an application for a zone change from single residential ranchette R1-R to single family residential R1-6, and first reading of the ordinance number 609-14, an ordinance of the town of Florence, Pinal County, Arizona, approving a zone change on the Redstone Ranch property located in a portion of the northeast quarter of Section 7, Township 5 South, Range 10 East, Gila and Salt River Meridian, Pinal County, Arizona, aka also known as APN 206-01-0230, PZC-41-13-ZC. Mr. Eckhoff will be presenting.
Mark?
Mayor, Council, good evening. We have 3 items tonight on the Redstone Ranch property, so I'll probably just kind of summarize everything that's going on in this presentation, although this particular item is just for the zone change. But recently we had a public hearing regarding the Redstone Ranch annexation. It's a property located south of town, and it is also adjacent to the Florence Ranch, or now known as the Johnson Ranch Estates property. So you can see on the exhibit that it's at Senair and Dogwood, and at the public hearing it was decided to go forward with this annexation. The annexation was filed. There's only one owner, so we went through the statutory process for the annexation, collected the single annexation petition, and now we are doing the final steps, which are there's a first reading on the annexation ordinance tonight. There's the first reading on applying the comparable zoning on the property tonight. And then after the comparable zoning is adopted at the next meeting, the new zoning would be applied to the property. So 3 items for this one particular property. It's a 30-acre site. This particular item you have tonight is a public hearing only, is no action, and that is to change the zoning of the property from what will be the comparable zoning to the R16 zoning, which will allow similar type of development that is occurring to the west and to the south with the Johnson Ranch Estates and the Senair developments. This is only a public hearing. I'd be happy to address any questions you may have.
Any member of the council have any questions for Mark?
Yeah, one.
Tom?
My only question is, under utilities, APS provider, this infrastructure will ultimately include a substation. Do we have any idea where that substation is going to go at this time?
Vice Mayor, Mayor, there is a possibility that as we look at the exploration of providing the utilities pretty much for the Johnson Ranch Estates project, that there may potentially be a substation in this area, but that we have not come far enough in those discussions with the landowners or the utility companies to know that. I don't believe at this time, unless I stand corrected.
That's fine.
No, General Manager Jeff Creedon of APS is scheduling a meeting with us in the near term, very short term, so we can not only get the short-term planning of the area, but the long-term planning for the town of Florence within the southeast area, as well as the entire general planning area.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, then I'll go ahead. I'm opening the public hearing on motion to adopt ordinance 60914 for the Redstone Ranch zone area change. Does any member of the public have any questions or would like to make any comments? Seeing no movement, I'll close the public hearing. Thank you, Mark.
Item 6B, annual report presentation by Police Chief Dan Hughes.
Mayor, council members, town manager, what you see before you is our annual report, and what I'd like to do is kind of hit the highlights. You have before you the full report, and I'm not going to go page by page. I really kind of wanted to hit the highlights of what it's about. Excuse me. If you look on page 3, you'll see where Florence was named one of the 17 safest cities in America. Compliments are most appreciated when they come unsolicited. We didn't go out and seek this. This came to us by a neighborhood scout that goes out and reviews all the communities within the United States. So this was quite appreciative that they would select Florence as the 17th safest city in America. Most of you have probably heard that we just recently saw an article where Florence was named the 4th safest city in Arizona, and again, that was unsolicited, but that says a lot about this community and the involvement of the police department with our neighborhoods and working together, building those partnerships. If you look on page 6, I wanted to point out, you'll see the statistics for 2011, 12, and 13. And basically, if you look at the total, we've had roughly about a 12% drop in Part 1 crimes for the town of Florence. Not that we had a lot of crime to begin with, but it's always nice to see a 12% drop when it goes from 320 to 282. What that really says is our officers are out there working really hard to make it a safe community. In fact, if you look just below it, you'll see the statistics for 2012. You'll see the calls for service. Officer-initiated calls basically were 10% in 2012. In this last year, you can see where officer-initiated calls for service are 41%. It's been one of the goals of the department, of the officers, to get out and meet the community, to be more interactive. And this says that they're taking more part in the different communities. As you know, we're divided into 3 beats, and the officers are out there getting more involved with their communities, meeting the neighbors, getting out there and working harder. So you can see not only has crime went down, but the interaction of the officers has gone up. And you'll notice that citations have increased. But that isn't the only thing that I really want you to see. What I really want to get across, the citations are really written to promote public safety. And what we're looking at on the issuing of citations is, are we reducing accidents? Are we making an impact on public safety? It's not just about writing citations, but they have worked real hard. We've got several grants from the Governor's Office on Highway Safety, some equipment, overtime money, and we went out and conducted some campaigns to slow people down in areas where people need to be more safe in their driving and change their habits. If you look at the bottom of this page, you'll see quality of life issues. Accidents are down by 5.3%. Simple assaults are down, and criminal damage is down almost 15%. And if you look, as I've said, welfare checks and officer involvement has gone up by 69%. One of the things we really, again, strived for is the interaction with our community, because it really has to be a partnership to make this community safe. Officers just simply driving around a neighborhood doesn't make it safe. It's when they get out, talk to the neighbors, talk to the people, and really find out what's going on, and working together that we can make real dent on crime. And you can see that it's worked. What you'll see throughout the rest of this report is the different beats that we have, how they're broken down. The officers are responsible for each one. And then what I've done is to break it down into the different divisions. As you go through this, you'll see that, again, it's a lot about partnerships, putting in child safety seats, restraints, seat belts enforcement, what's going to keep our community safe. We have a lot of commercial vehicles going through in and out of Florence, and we've done a lot of checks just to make sure that they're safe on the roadways. What you'll see over these, as I said, going through each of these programs, we're in the schools, we're teaching great gang resistance education and other educational programs that have to do with ethics. It's my belief that if we can really work with our kids, we'll have a safer community in the future, because they are the next generation of Florence. You get down a little further, you'll see that we've done a lot more in training this year than ever before. We're sending our officers, we're getting them a lot of additional training that they've never had in the past. Again, I feel like a better trained officer is going to make this a safer community, and we're going to give better customer service if we can train our officers in the things that this community needs. Our volunteers are very much involved with our community. You can see that they're almost at every event. They save us a lot of time and effort, and they keep our officers on the street where we want them to be. One of the things I like to point out is our 911 dispatch. Our increase in calls have gone up. They do a lot inside. When you can see the number of screens that they watch and are responsible for, it's amazing that they can keep it all together. I'm not sure that I could. They do a great job, and our 911 calls have went up, as you can see, just simply from 2011 to 2013, they're busier than they have ever been in the past. Our records section up front does a great job. Again, it's all about customer service and meeting the public and getting the things that they need. One of the things you'll see, and again, I know I'm going fast, but one of the things we implemented was the drug box, the drop-off. This year alone, we took in 31 pounds of prescription and non-prescription drugs that didn't go into our water system. And this hasn't been really widely publicized, but we took it out to Anthem when they had an event out there and picked up 23 pounds of chemicals that are not going into our water and into our sewers. So we're going to continue this, and hopefully it'll be used even more. And again, I know I went over this rather fast, but you have before you our complete report, but I just kind of wanted to touch base and hit some of the highlights and let you know that our goal for the Florence Police Department is to provide the best customer service that we can and to promote safety for this community. And hopefully, while this is a great report, I hope next year is an even better year than this year. Several of our finest right there.
Do you remember the council have any questions for Dan?
Yeah, I have a question.
Ruben?
In your report, I think it was back on page 6, you had the diagram. It showed where we had an increase in speed reasonable and prudent.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Back on page 6.
This wasn't exactly the way this is supposed to work. I think it's Mark's fault. Okay, page 6, yes.
Maybe it's a little higher. It was one of the screens had where it had all the different crimes, and the first one was speeding.
No, it's first, next page, Dan. It'll be page 7.
Page 7?
Okay, top violations? Yes, sir.
Yes. On the first one, it showed quite a bit of an increase. Can you explain why we had so much?
What I really think has happened is there is a lot of vehicles, there's a lot of people that come in every day to Florence that work, being the county seat, Hunt Highway, the two major highways, 79 and 287. There's a lot of people that travel those. We've looked at those and tried to slow traffic down. And again, as you and I talked, I'm not exactly sure, and maybe it's something we need to look at, exactly how many people use Hunt Highway, maybe get the information from ADOT, just to see how many people are using that highway and what effects we're having on it. I know that we're certainly slowing people down.
Okay. That's all I had. That's what I had spotted.
Tommy, you ready? There we go. No. The only thing I'd like to see, and I think it can be an increase in it, is the school zone.
Yes.
I'm gonna jump you again. You know how I feel about school zones. I thought about that since 1980 when I took over as chief of police here. I would much like to see a higher presence of Florence Police Department's officers in these schools the time the school gets out and begins. They are the future. And just because my wife works at one of them, that's part of the situation. That's where I get a lot of information from, because Donna tells me what to do a lot of times. But this one I have to agree with her on. She had a car go through the school zone again today. She yelled at it. The car was able to stop at where the ambulance comes out. That's how fast it was going through the school zone. She was out in the crosswalk with a sign up. Kids standing on the corner. She's got them pretty well trained not to get into the deal until she tells them to come in the crosswalk. Dan, I'm sorry, but your officers during those times, they need to be in these school zones. I don't care if it's in Anthem or here in town. We have to have a higher presence in it. The volunteers are a great asset to it, but the people have learned that when they see a volunteer, it's just a volunteer and they can't issue the citation. We have to do something. If the volunteer has to call in a regular officer over there to write the citation, so be it. They can come as a witness.
I agree, and we are working on that, and we will increase those. It is, as you said, very important, nothing more important than our children.
And that's where I'm coming from on that. So
I'd like to add to that, too. When the kids get off, the high school kids get off at lunchtime, it is a raceway over there. All we need is somebody with a checkered flag. It's pretty bad.
Down Willow Street?
Down Willow Street.
And I've talked to Wayne about that. We're doing the sidewalk project over in that area. We already have one speed bump in it, but from what I'm told is they use that speed bump as a start-go line, and they hardly stop at the Willow and Adamsville, or no, it's Central and Adamsville. Either both Central and Willow.
We will increase, and that is an area that we're addressing, and will continue to increase our presence in those areas.
And I think a driver education course for some of those kids, rather than a citation or something, would probably be even better if we could go up into the schools and present some sort of driver education to them, and show them some of the horrific accidents that occur due to speed and drinking and so forth as that.
I do agree with you, and those are some areas that I hope that we can address quickly.
And again, Wayne, I want another speed bump on Willow Street. If they want to speed, let them tear let them tear their cars up. Mom and Dad get tired of fixing them up, and then they'll be walking.
I will say, to partner on to what you just spoke about, upcoming, you have prom, graduation. I know yearly you guys go out there, the public safety. They talk about, drinking and driving late at night. The sheriff's office also partners up and helps find, Ruben, can you help me out with this one? The funding, so they have the Safe Night In. What's that called?
The deal with the RICO money, the lock-in program.
Yeah, so they have the lock-in. So that's also a great opportunity to talk about, the dangers of speeding and drinking and driving. But you guys are doing a great job.
Thank you. And we will work on that.
And I will say that I've seen an improvement, and I think the public's seen an improvement on the department. The attitude of the people here now is we've got a police department going now that's headed in the right direction. So Dan, thank you, and keep up the good work. Tell your officers thank you from the council.
I will do that. Thank you.
Item 6C, proclamation of the mayor declaring April 6th through 12th, 2014 as the week of Young Child in Pinal County. The mayor will be making a presentation, and I'll read the proclamation. Mr. Brett Haupt from First Things First is here to receive on behalf of the organization.
Okay, as I walk down, why don't you go ahead and read it?
Whereas the First Things First Regional Partnership Council and the local partnership organization, in conjunction with the National Association for the Education of Young Children, are celebrating the Week of Young Child, April 6 through 12, 2014. And whereas these organizations are working to improve early learning opportunities, which are crucial to the growth and development of young children and building a foundation of learning for everyone in Pinal County. And whereas all children and their families in the state of Arizona and Pinal County deserve access to high-quality early childhood education. And whereas public policies and programs that support early learning for all young children are critical to young children's futures and the successes of our community. And whereas teachers and others who make a difference in the lives of young children and families in Pinal County deserve thanks and recognition. Now, therefore, I, Tom Rankin, Mayor of the town of Florence, Arizona, do hereby proclaim April 6 through 12, 2014 as Week of the Young Child in Florence and encourage all citizens to work together to make good investments in early childhood in Pinal County.
On behalf of the town council, thank you very much. We're happy to give this proclamation. As you heard Dan and I talk about their children, the future of our community, their education has to be there also.
Absolutely.
And we appreciate all the work you're doing for the young kids in Pinal County.
With your permission, Mayor, may I address the council? Mr. Mayor, thank you so much. Vice Mayor, Council, my name is Brett Haupt. I am the Community Outreach Coordinator for First Things First in the Pinal region. Thank you so much for this proclamation, and I'm just going to briefly speak for a moment as to why this is so important. As we now know, 90% of a child's critical brain development happens by age 5, 80% by age 3. Those earliest years are so important, not only in developing things like vocabulary and reading comprehension that will carry them throughout their school years, but throughout their entire life, but also other things like self-esteem, focus, and motivation. Those things are rooted and instilled in the earliest childhood years. Those are traits of successful people, and if we can engage our children in the right ways in those earliest years, we can have generations upon generations grow up strong here in Pinal County. I want to leave you with one thing, and I want to leave everybody in the chambers with one thing, and that is that oftentimes when we speak about early childhood, we think about a quality education, you know, a good preschool, maybe a good home visitation program, and yes, those things are important, but last summer, I was at the Early Childhood Summit in Phoenix, and there was a woman who made a presentation on executive functions in a child's brain, which is basically the ability of a child to regulate their behavior. And she was studying what the most effective ways of engaging young children were, and she came across one conclusion that I would like to leave you with, and that is, more than what we teach our children, more than how we teach our children, the most important thing is just to spend time with those children. Engage with those children, listen to them, and they will have all of the necessary tools to grow up strong. I thank you so much for this proclamation. Thank you very much, Mayor, Council, and I thank you for your support of early childhood.
Thank you. And I agree with you. People need to spend time with their children. And if they don't have them, they borrow some of my grandchildren. Okay, thanks. Next item.
Item 7, consent. All items indicated by an asterisk will be handled by a single vote as part of the consent agenda unless a council member or a member of the public objects at the time the agenda item is called. Item A, proclamation of the mayor declaring April 2014 as Fair Housing Month. B, approval of the resignation of Christine Reeder from the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. C, approval of the sale of the town of Florence owned residential property located at 745 South Central, Florence, Arizona, assessor parcel number 202-09-037D, to Deborah Bagnall for $61,444. D, approval of accepting the registered demands ending February 28, 2014 in the amount of $2,180,934.30. Mayor, that's your consent agenda.
Do you member of the council have anything like taken off the consent agenda?
What about the Christine Reeder's resignation? I didn't hear you read that.
I did read that, sir, but I can repeat that.
Oh, you did?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
I missed it.
Any other? Need a motion?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The motion carries.
Item 8, new business. 8A, ordinance number 607-14, first reading of an ordinance of the Town of Florence, Pinal County, Arizona, extending and increasing the corporate limits of the Town of Florence, Pinal County, State of Arizona, pursuant to the provisions of Title 9, Chapter 4, Article 7, Arizona Revised Statutes, and amendments thereto, by annexing certain territory contiguous to the existing town limits of the Town of Florence, Arizona, and providing for rescission of such annexation if the annexation is challenged. Redstone Ranch annexation number 2013-03. Mr. Eckhoff will be presenting.
Mayor and Council, so this is one of the three parts again of the Redstone Ranch annexation. This is the first reading of the annexation ordinance. And it is not a public hearing, it's just the first reading, and then second reading and adoption would carry over to the next meeting.
Any member of the council have any question for Mark? Okay, thank you, Mark.
Item 8B, ordinance number 608-14, first reading of an ordinance of the Town of Florence, Pinal County, Arizona, amending the Town of Florence zoning map by changing the zoning classification of a certain parcel of land from Pinal County General Rural Zoning District to Town of Florence Single Residential Ranchette, Zoning District Redstone Ranch Annexation, Initial Comparable Zoning. Mr. Eckhoff.
Mayor, Council, this is the comparable, adoption of the comparable zoning component of the annexation. As you know, and we've talked a lot about this regarding Wild Horse Estates, but when we bring a property in, we have to apply comparable zoning. Comparable zoning in this case will be the R16. Will be the R1R. The R1R ultimately will be changed to the R16 per the first item that we discussed on this case.
Any member of the council have any questions? Okay.
Item 8C, resolution number 1430-14, discussion, approval, disapproval of a resolution of the Town of Florence, Pinal County, Arizona, approving the development agreement with Johnson Ranch Estates, LLC, an Arizona limited liability company, and authorizing execution of such development agreement. Mr. Eckhoff.
Mayor and Council, we have a development agreement here for Johnson Ranch Estates. I'm very excited to report that. We've been working on this for quite some time, probably a little more than a year, talking about the development agreement issues and the land plan issues and some of the other things that have been going on evolving around this property. As you know, we've kind of referenced the property with the other items, but this is down south, formerly known as Florence Ranch, now Johnson Ranch Estates, and that Redstone Ranch annexation is just immediately north of the property. And you'll see in your exhibit there's a land use, a very colorful land use plan in your exhibit. That will give you an idea of exactly what Mr. Johnson, WLB, and other folks involved in this project would like to do with this property over some time. So we have the development agreement on the agenda tonight. We'll still be coming forward in the near future with the general plan amendment for this property to change the land use designation to a master plan community, and then also we'll be amending the Florence Ranch PUD zoning document. I believe a few of you were on council actually when we brought in the Florence Ranch property, did the annexation, did the development agreement, and did the zone change, and then of course almost immediately thereafter the economy took a nosedive and the property kind of sat idle there for a while. But Mr. Johnson has some great plans to get going on this property. The development agreement is really quite straightforward. I will hit on a couple of points to note. One is it is a 20-year development agreement, and it will, for the property that Mr. Johnson owns in this area, it will supersede the Florence Ranch development agreement. So this will take over for that. There is a term under the impact fee section that just the residential development impact fees, they will be deferred, but not waived until 500 dwelling units are completed or for 3 years. And that will allow Mr. Johnson, the developers, the home builders to facilitate more activity, home building activity here immediately, have those fees deferred until there's some production going on of homes, but it does not waive those fees, so they will be paid. There will be impact fee credits applied for when they do improvements, and that's done according to state statute and to our ordinances. An example will be the 5-acre site that's dedicated to the fire department, so the value of that site will be credited towards the fire impact fee credits. Preliminary plats for the property will be for a 2-year period instead of the 1 year allowed by code. And then also you'll see in that master plan exhibit that there are some references to the new water and wastewater infrastructure that we've been talking about, obviously on this property. And the development agreement, as you know, it does vest the zoning and invest these terms into the agreement for the period of the agreement. But essentially that's already been done by having the Florence Ranch Development Agreement in place. So that hits the highlights of that. I'd be happy to elaborate as needed, and Mr. Johnson and WLB is here too, if you have more questions for them.
Does any member of the council have any questions? Bill?
Yeah, I'm wondering, is this a typo error or is this correct? The third, on background and discussion, I looked for it back in the agreement and I couldn't find where it was. But anyway, it says it is noted that a portion of Johnson Ranch Estates development located east of Highway 79, though still in the PUD, is excluded from the development agreement as that portion is under different ownership. Is that a typo? It should be the west side?
Member Hawkins, Mayor, Council, it absolutely is the west side. I was probably looking at the map upside down when I wrote that.
Okay, but I mean...
Just kidding. It was just a typo on my part. I apologize. The west part of the property that you can see in this exhibit, so everything on the west side of Highway 79, there's a different property owner,
Right.
Ron McRae. He is working closely with this group and doing the whole master plan, but he's not actually party to the development agreement terms that we're talking about tonight.
Right, but in the agreement itself, it's corrected, is that right?
The agreement is absolutely correct, and I apologize again for that.
That's all I had. I just, that was the majority of the property. That's why it kind of caught me off guard. I'm like,
Tom?
No, if ready, I'll make a motion.
Any other questions?
In that case, I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 1430-14.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 1430-14. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously.
Item 8D, resolution number 1431-14, discussion, approval, disapproval of a resolution of the Town of Florence, Pinal County, Arizona, approving the pre-annexation and development agreement with Seville Investments, LLC, a Delaware limited liability company, John C. Thompson and Robert C. Mister, the owner, and authorizing execution of such pre-annexation and development agreement, annexation number 2013-01, Hunt Highway Commercial Properties. Mr. Echo.
Mayor, members of the council, I'm happy to present this item here tonight. It is a property that is part of the Magic Ranch annexation. Jeff Welker is here tonight representing the property owners, and we actually worked on this a few years ago when we pursued the Barclay annexation, and that didn't quite materialize, but they were back again ready to work with us and come into the town of Florence. I'm particularly excited about this property. You can see exactly where it is on the map on Hunt Highway, next to Magic Ranch, the Johnson Utility Section 11 facility. There was a master plan that was done in the county quite some time ago, and the subject property that we're looking at is the red part, the corner, which is D, it's commercial. Across the street where you see on the south side or west side of Hunt Highway, you'll see the grocery anchored shopping center. That's where Fry's has a piece of property that will ultimately be developed and then surrounded by residential development. But on this particular property, their plans have been for quite some time. This is another project that kind of got hurt pretty bad by the recession, but their plans continue to be to develop a mini storage facility on this property, on the bulk of the 7 acres, and then they'll have a piece in the middle that they can develop with some neighborhood or local commercial that will be compatible to the mini storage facility. The property owners have been great to work with. They are supportive of the annexation, and of note on this development agreement, it's because they plan on hopefully developing this property within the next 5 years. The term to note for the development agreement is shorter. Within the first 5 years of the term of the development agreement, there will be no increases in the development impact fees. So they will pay the impact fees that are in the schedule provided in the document, and then also they will continue to bring in their plans that have been, whatever stage they've been entitled at in the county, they will bring those in. So this site plan went through a county process. They'll bring that in, and they'll be able to kind of carry forward pretty easily once we complete this annexation. And be happy to address any questions you may have.
Any member of the council have any question for Mark? Hearing none, I need a motion.
I make a motion to approve the adoption of resolution number 1431-14.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution 1431-14. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item 9, department reports. Mayor, council, the department reports are in your packet. If you have any questions, your answer.
Yeah, I do.
Tom,
Just some small ones here. On Main Street Park, this is the first time I've ever seen 2-hour parking signs in town. Is that for any special reason, or?
If I may, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, those 2-hour parking signs have been there, I believe, approximately about 8 months. They were put in place at my request originally because there was some activities going on in the park with high school students to limit the parking and what was going on at that area.
Good reason. Also, the Farmers Market being moved down to the Queen Creek or Valley, being the same as the Queen Creek or Oro Valley ones or something like that. The point is, where it's being moved, is there room for that?
In talking to the staff, we believe there's adequate room. They're still going through the planning process to make sure that can occur. That is not anything final. We'll bring that back to council.
And the other question I've got is on page 5 of 5, which is Highway 79B and 287. This is, I assume, what we're talking about is where up by the high school, where our Y is, where possible roundabouts going in. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Isn't that all state highway?
That is.
And we have to put up funds for this?
The design funds, and Mr. Costa can help me with this, the design funds have already been in place, so once the design is complete, those documents will come back to the town, and the town can either find the funding or work with ADOT to acquire funding to build that roadway. That's my understanding.
So we have to pay for part of that roadway?
Vice Mayor Smith, yes, I think just 5.7% as I recall, so it's about, if I recall correctly, it's about $46,000. The ADOT will pick up the other 650,000 or so.
Okay, thank you.
And I'd like to expand on that just a minute if I could. We can thank our legislature for that. They have stripped the HERF money for communities all over the state of Arizona. They raped us. They took all that money out, and they're just giving us a little portion. They seem to think they're doing us a big favor by giving us a little bit of money this year. But the legislature is the reason that communities along with ADOT, with the county, are having to combine their resources in order to get anything done. But it's because of the legislature up in the state capitol that are taking all the HERF money and taking it out and using it for other projects, special projects that they have.
Now, I know we discussed this, I don't know, I think a couple times over the years. Now, is it a done deal that we're going to put in a roundabout? I never knew that it was actually a done deal. I mean, that we had decided to put in a roundabout. Because last I remember, we were responsible for all the cost, as I remember, as I recall.
No, it's been on, Councilman Hawkins, no, it's been on the books since about 2005. It was part of the TIP program and always was to be funded by ADOT. The majority of it was to be funded. We're just doing our match of the 5.7%.
Okay.
We had to put all the money in for the design. Is that correct, Wayne? We used our tip money for design?
We're only putting in 5.7% of the design, which is $650,000.
$650,000?
That's the total cost. We're putting in about $46,000 of the $650,000.
But it is going to be a roundabout.
Yes, it is.
They're not going to try to line the roads up and just make it a four-way stop?
No, it's going to be a roundabout. That was the PAR report, the project analysis report.
I think a roundabout's going to be a worse setup than what's already there, but that's just my opinion.
A little bit of history, but you are taking approximately 8 intersections and combine them at that one point, and that would be difficult to do with all the various turning type and conflicting turning movements that you have at that location. And that was basically the basis of the roundabout versus a T intersection or handling the turning movements of 7 or 8 intersections. It also, the legs of the roundabout would typically handle many of the approaches such as into the Burger King, into Campbell, into Keating Road would better be handled by a roundabout versus a T intersection that would be expanded to handle the 8 intersections at that location.
Yet to be seen.
Well, I can tell you, my opinion on that, in my opinion, you know, different from yours. I've been in Pace and Wickenburg, on state highways, have the roundabouts. They're actually easier to work with once you get used to them, but it takes some getting used to.
Well, that's what happens when people come into town right now. They get up there by the Burger King and they pull over into the westbound traffic thinking that that's the right way. So, you know, tourists don't have time to get used to it. That's all I'm saying, but whatever.
I think nationwide you're finding more areas that have roundabouts in them rather than the stop signs. I think we've had that on the books, what'd you say, since 2005 is when we put it on. Any other question on the reports? Okay, at this time I'll open the call to the public. Second calling to the public. Anyone like to come forward? Good evening, Denise.
Good evening. Denise Kohlert, Florence Gardens. I'm biased, but I'm going to say this anyways. Our library needs to be over here, not downtown. There's not enough room down there to do anything for a decent library, and that's what I am hoping we can do. So please, I know this that spoke's heart's in the right place, but that isn't where our library needs to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? Hearing none, I'll close the public, call the council. Tommy? Ruben? Tom? Or...
I do. I was going to say that recently the town of Florence, we just held our first boards and commissions honorary dinner. It was really nice to have all of the different boards committees together celebrating hard work and success to make our town successful and continue to move forward. And looking at that also, for those that are interested, there's positions for our boards and commissions, as well as the town council positions that are coming up with the recent elections. So I would say to please visit our Town of Florence website, learn about the opportunities that are out there, especially the events that are going on in our town. And if it's all right, Town Manager, I'd like to publicly introduce our new Parks and Rec Director.
Why don't you do that?
Mr. Brian Hughes comes to us from Fountain Hills. He was there for approximately 15 years. He is also the previous president of the Arizona Parks and Rec Association for the state. So, Brian?
Mayor Rankin, council members, I'm excited to be here. It's been 2 weeks so far. It's been pretty busy, and I'm looking forward to the good things that we'll be able to do here in Florence, and look forward to working with you all, and also with the boards and commissions and the rest of the staff and the public. So thank you, and thank you for the warm welcome as well.
Thank you, Mark. Bill?
Thank you. Welcome aboard.
Kara, do you have anything else?
I was just going to say thank you and welcome aboard.
I don't have anything tonight.
Tom?
Yeah, a couple of small items. I'm going to refer to a press release by the town, March 27, 2014. On this, it states that the final negotiation document to the town council, which is the upcoming purchase of Johnson Utilities, will be upcoming in the upcoming weeks for their consideration. My question is, when is that coming up?
Vice Mayor, Mayor, Council. Right now, myself and Mr. Minato are still working with the attorneys from Johnson Utilities at this point in time. I think we are fairly close on the management agreement, and the purchase agreement should be right behind. So I believe, hopefully by the end of this month, we should have those to council. That is the plan at this point in time, and that's what it's looking like may happen.
My question on that is, on Tuesday, May 20th, is when it goes to the public for a vote. Shouldn't any decision by council wait till after that takes place?
Vice Mayor, Mayor, Council, if I may, that is definitely a policy decision for you all to make the determination. My direction is just to bring those finalized documents to you all, and if you all wish to approve those prior or after, that is a policy decision for council to make.
Thank you. The other item I've got to go on here is just something I want to get straightened out, because we've got a lot of people saying different things, and that is on Johnson Ranch as far as the water company and sewer company go. It's a good company. There's nothing wrong with this company. Whether it's right for the town or not, I'm not sure. Let's say I'm from Missouri, it still needs to be proved. But one point I'd like to make is we hear all of this about the price on this piece of property is like $121,000, actually $120,427,000. Okay. My point is, over the 30-year period, that's just the base price, because the interest on $120 million is $201 million, meaning a total price of $321,782,000. So that's our debt that we're going to be looking at if we purchase this company. That may be good. It may not. Depends on the economy, depends on a lot. But that's something the voters should know. They should also know that the annual payments are interest only for the first 5 years, even though this paper I have from Dan Jackson says 1 and 2. But I believe this is a 5-year operation. The fixed principal and interest is 8% for 6 to 30 years. That comes out to $321,782 approximately. That's what's given to me. Now, I understand that. I just think the public should know it, and that they should be able to make a decision with all the knowledge we can possibly give them, and I don't believe we should vote on it until after they have done their vote. Thank you.
Since you brought that up, I'll put my 2 cents in. I agree with Tom as well, and I thought that we were going to plan another community meeting, and I think that needs to be done prior to the vote so that that kind of information can be shared with the public.
Any other? Okay, let me have my say. I totally 150% behind the purchase of this utility company. The points that you brought out on the cost, or what it's going to cost, is not going to cost the taxpayers. It will cost the users of the utility, not the taxpayers. There is no cost associated to your tax bill or my tax bill here in town.
I think I stated that's true if everything goes right.
If everything goes right, it's just like on purchasing a car, Tom. If the economy goes to squat, then Johnson will have, whoever the bondholder is, has to take it back. The citizens aren't on the hook for it, under the bond. That's one thing that it's not going to cost the citizens of Florence anything. It's going to simplify eventually the bonding of the two utility companies, where we're all under one utility company. And I think that that's the main thing that we got to get out to the citizens, is it's not going to cost you anything. Now, I will invite my council members that I will be speaking at the Rotary Club, and I will be speaking in favor of this project. Now, the way I said in the paper on the news release, or not in the news release, but in the questions after, if the voters approve the sale or the purchase of the company, and we have not been able to reach the management agreement, or the asset purchase agreement with Mr. Johnson, does not mean, because the voters said, okay, go ahead and buy it, that we as the council have to buy it. These agreements that are being worked on right now are going to take some time to do. Whether they're done prior to the election or not, I don't know, because you got attorneys involved in it, and we all know what attorneys do, right, Mr. Minato? I mean, this is what we have to look at. So let's, I would love to have all the agreements worked out, all the T's crossed and I's dotted at this time, but these things take time, and under the election schedule that our clerk had to set up to get this in front of the people is what we're working with today. I'd also like to thank everybody that sent condolences to my wife for the loss that she shared with the passing of her sister. We appreciate all the kindness and everything. We had our memorial services last weekend up in Kingman. That's over with. Charlie, did you want to say something on the utility agreement?
I did. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Woolridge, you are correct, and I do believe I did tell council that when those documents are finalized, we will plan another work session and another special session to make sure you all have that opportunity, and the public also, to see those documents.
And can we have it on a night that we normally have a council meeting, and not a strange night that people don't really plan for?
We will work with staff to kind of rearrange some of the items that are already scheduled for council.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comment?
Are we still on for Wednesday?
I believe we have a special council meeting this coming 14th for council to call an election early for the home rule, I believe, in the fall. And then I believe we are also on for the 21st. It's another Wednesday, you are correct?
3rd.
So, yes. So I believe that's what we're scheduled for at this point in time, yes. And I believe that, though, that session there is to discuss the 2014-2015 recommended budget to council.
Okay, any other questions? Ruben?
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
We have motion and second to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. We're adjourned.